1 in 6 people around you is a narcissist, but you won't realize it until the trap snaps shut. To survive, you must recognize which of these 7 levels is hunting you. After 10 days of research and production, we're using iconic cinema to reveal the 7 levels of Narcissistic Personality Disorder, the red flags, and how to escape.
And how an ancient Greek myth still perfectly mirrors the NPD we see today.
Let's start at the very base of our spectrum. Level 1 is the adaptive narcissist. Believe it or not, this level can actually be healthy. It's defined by high self-sufficiency and a strong sense of worth that drives a person to achieve greatness without stepping on others to get there. You can see this perfectly in Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Tony Stark. Listen to how he claims his ego as a service to the world.
I have successfully privatized world peace.
That's the adaptive trait in a nutshell. He is undeniably arrogant, but he takes full responsibility for his power. He has a moral code and uses his brilliance to protect society rather than exploit it. When that healthy confidence loses its empathy, we slip into level 2. To understand how that happens, we have to look at the very root of the word. Long before modern therapy, the ancient Greeks were already exploring the ego while sitting by the Mediterranean waves. They captured a deep psychological truth in a myth, the story of a young man named Narcissus. To help us see these levels clearly, let's see how his story mirrors the actual stages of the disorder.
Long ago, there was a young boy named Narcissus. He was, without a doubt, the most handsome kid you'd ever lay eyes on. But he had a funny little problem. He was so busy looking at his own shadow that he wandered through the woods completely clueless. He wasn't trying to be mean. He just literally forgot other people existed.
That childlike cluelessness brings us to level 2, the benign narcissist. At this stage, the person is primarily self-absorbed rather than malicious. Their world is very small, and they are the only ones in it. Edward Norton plays this brilliantly in Glass Onion. But notice what happens when his genius persona is finally challenged and his world starts to crumble.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, that's so punk rock. You think you're an alligator? You think you pop me like a gangster? No! Ah, you child!
That is the hallmark of a benign narcissist, the pseudo-intellectual who is so trapped in his own fan club that he doesn't realize he's actually quite shallow. A major red flag here is the validation loop. They talk almost exclusively about themselves, often obsessed with their own status. But when their superiority is threatened, they don't engage as equals. They lash out with the defensive, wounding words of a man who only sees irrelevant footnotes where people should be.
Now, Narcissus wasn't alone in those woods. He was being followed by a girl named Echo. Poor Echo wasn't always just a voice. She used to be a real chatterbox. But she was playing a dangerous game. She was acting as a lookout for the king of the gods, Zeus, distracting his wife Hera with endless gossip so he could hide his secret affairs. When Hera realized she was being played for a fool, she was furious. She decided that if Echo loved the sound of her own voice so much, she'd never use it to lie again. She cursed her so that Echo could never speak her own thoughts. She could only repeat the last few words people said to her. So when she saw Narcissus, she couldn't tell him how much she loved him. She could only follow him, hoping he'd speak first.
This leads us to level 3, the communal narcissist. This type wears a saint persona, using helping others as a way to feed their own ego. Think of Ralph Fiennes as the chef in the menu. He tells his guests,
"Do not eat. Taste, savor, relish. Be mindful, but do not eat. Our menu is too precious for that."
He presents himself as a servant to his art, but he is actually a tyrant, demanding total devotion. The red flag here is a sharp contrast between their public giving and private entitlement. They demand massive validation for being a good person.
Eventually, Echo worked up the courage to run out and hug him, but Narcissus, being as cold as he was handsome, shoved her away. "I'd rather die than let you have me," he shouted. Poor Echo could only repeat back, "Have me, have me." Heartbroken and humiliated, she ran away to the dark caves. She was so sad that she stopped eating and sleeping. Slowly, her body just faded away until there was nothing left but her voice, echoing in the mountains forever. That's what happens when you give your heart to a person who only loves themselves.
Welcome to level 4, the covert or vulnerable narcissist. These individuals use victimhood as a form of grandiosity. The best example is Joaquin Phoenix in Joker. By the end of the film, his mask of helplessness slips away entirely. Just before he pulls the trigger on national television, he reveals his twisted logic to the world.
What do you get?
I don't think so.
When you cross
I think
a
we're
mentally
done
ill
with you,
loner
George.
with
That's
a
it.
society that abandons him and treats him like trash!
Call the police,
I'll
Gene.
tell you what you get!
Call the police.
You get what you fucking deserve!
While his pain is real, he uses it to justify his belief that he is special and above the rules of society. They are hypersensitive and passive-aggressive. If they don't get their way, they will stage a crisis or blame the world for their failures to manipulate your empathy.
The gods were watching all of this, and they weren't happy. A goddess named Nemesis, the one in charge of justice, decided Narcissus had broken enough hearts. She led him deep into the forest to a pool of water that was as still as a mirror. Narcissus leaned down for a drink, and for the first time in his life, he saw something that truly fascinated him. He didn't see the forest or the sky, he saw his own face, and he fell hopelessly in love.
That is level 5, the classic or grandiose narcissist. This is the extroverted, arrogant stereotype who truly believes they are a different, better species. J.K. Simmons captures this terrifying energy in Whiplash.
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
He believes only he has the authority to define greatness, and everyone else is just a tool to be broken for his vision. They have an unrealistic sense of superiority and treat you like a bit player in their life. They don't listen, they just wait for their turn to be admired. As we move into the final stages, the behavior shifts from self-obsession to active hostility. Level 6 is the antagonistic narcissist. At this stage, the world is a zero-sum game. If you aren't losing, they aren't winning. Daniel Day-Lewis delivers a masterclass in this combat ego as Bill the Butcher. After the brutal opening battle, he doesn't just take the victory, he demands absolute control over the narrative of the war. Listen to the aggressive dominance in his voice as he claims his trophies.
Ears and noses will be the trophies of the day. But no hand shall touch him. He'll cross over whole.
To him, respect is a war. He doesn't just want power, he wants the glory of being the one who dictates who is honored and who is destroyed. These individuals are highly competitive and aggressively legalistic about their territory. They will belittle or cheat you just to win a social interaction, turning every conversation into a battlefield where they must be the one who grants or denies respect. But now, we reach a point where even the original myth starts to struggle. Level 7 is the malignant narcissist. This level is so predatory and harsh that the character of Narcissus, who was mostly trapped in his own reflection, couldn't quite embody this depth of darkness. This is where narcissism blends with true sociopathy and paranoia. No one portrays this better than Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
There is zero empathy here. To a malignant type, you aren't even a human. You are an object for their consumption. They are sadistic, meaning they take joy in pain. They are exploitative and have no remorse for the harm they cause. We have explored the darkest corners of human psychology. But what finally happened to the boy by the pool? Listen to the final destiny of Narcissus.
Narcissus realized he could never truly have what he saw in the water. He didn't have the strength to leave, so he just stayed there, obsessed and alone, until he finally took his last breath. Right where Narcissus fell, a beautiful white and gold flower grew out of the earth, the Narcissus flower. And even today, that flower still leans over the water, forever looking at its own reflection.
Because the cycle of narcissism is exactly that, a loop. This haul was never about them. It was about the reflections we keep feeding. When you encounter these types, remember, you cannot fix a reflection. For levels 1 through 3, set firm boundaries. For levels 4 and 5, practice gray rocking. Become as boring and unreactive as a stone so they lose interest. But for levels 6 and 7, don't argue, don't explain, just leave. Your empathy is their fuel. Don't let them burn you out to keep their image alive.